fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my God! Oh. Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled!
It's very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly. This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
Well, it's become tradition once a season to have an Ozicar Skip Barber Series race on an oval. Been to USA International twice. Now, round 3 of Season 9 takes us to Dover in the USA. This is a bigger, faster, meaner, monsterier track. That's not a word, but tonight's racing is going to be very, very interesting and flat out nonetheless. A different challenge for our drivers than the road courses that will keep them on their toes. David Haynes, joined by Jason Fewens, and Jason, well, it's an oval. There's a lot of banking. It's going to be very fast. We are going to get some 2 wide, 3 wide, 4 wide action tonight.
Yeah, it's the we've been here, not been here, but we've been to a couple of ovals so far in the Ozicar series, and each one's produced a great racing and a result that we sort of weren't really aware of how it was going to end right until the checkered flag. So hopefully again tonight we'll witness something very similar. I know you want to talk about the large banking here, so there'll be plenty of opportunities, like you said, for cars to go 2, 3, 4 wide, nice wide track and high banks to carry a lot of speed on that outside line.
It's very important, if you didn't know what an oval looks like, that it's made up of left turns. Pit speed, relatively slow, as you said, banking, 24 degrees of it is a lot, and this track, a mile in length, 1.6 kilometers. So is that twice the size of USA then? It's definitely longer straights, wider corners, and quite a bit more banking as well. I was watching in practice, the drivers practicing their run on and off the pit lane here, and it looks like that pit entry, well, not going to be particularly easy in a skippy. That's something to worry about more for race number 2 though, because race number 1 is just going to be a 15-minute flat-out sprint jockeying for position. The grid is going to start like this. Tim Corn on pole from James Chastanoff ahead of Tim Harris, Peter Baldwin, and Alex McKellar. And behind that, got Clayton Davies, Matthew Mites, Braden Martin, Ira Felberg, and Craig Kermond.
John Schultz and Russell Clark share the row there, followed by Sean McKenzie and Ashley Knowles. Moving further down the line, we've got Nathan Burney and Simon Dobner, followed by Dennis Hancock, Sean Doyle. Jeremy Bush there qualifying in 21st. Alongside him, we'll find Darren Lassou. Leon Williams and Sean Carey, they make up row 12 tonight, 31.3 seconds apiece for a lap time around here for these guys back on row 12. So good lap time from them, but quite a few guys in front of them.
That is, of course, our grid, and they are proper rows because we are going to have our 2 wide rolling start, as you kind of have to do on an oval. Here's our grid. They form up in the pit lane behind the iRacing safety car, the new-ish sedan. I like it. And you can see a lot of our grid starting to take place. I assume on an oval this size, it's just the 1 formation lap, is it not?
I think that's right, but noticeably what we're missing on the front row of the grid is a handful of green cars. So the locked-on lads team have locked out the front row. So traditionally in the past we've seen at least 1 green car in the first 2 rows, and tonight something a little bit different. So mixing things up a little bit tonight, which will be exciting for the championship.
No doubt. I did see Alex McKellar is back there in 6th, so he's on the 3rd row with a little bit of green and a little bit more white, as we mentioned last time out. He's spruced up the livery a little bit. You can see still got 24 to 25 cars, and they are presumably just going to be all one pack around this track where slipstream is going to work. But that is something we're going to find out ever so shortly. They will pull off pit road to start the formation lap here at Dover. That's a good angle of the banking. Plenty of grip up high there as well. So we are expecting to see a couple of lines and grooves of racing.
It's just plenty of marbles being thrown to that outside line as well. So it'll be interesting to see whether the cars can retain some of that grip around the high line, or whether it does turn into a slippery option for the guys as they try and take the high line around the outside and carry a bit more speed down these long straights.
Huge looking rims on the iRacing sedan. Some interestingly painted rims for Chastanoff on the outside of the front row. Same can be said for Peter Wilkinson behind him. But there goes the pace car. You can see the pit entry starts the middle of turns 3 and 4 there. So they're just waiting. The green flag in the air, and they are going to put the power down early. Tim Corn into the lead of the race. Everyone else looking for where's their slipstream going to come from. Who's going to be their drafting buddy to help pull them forward through the pack. 2 wide through turns 1 and 2, and that looks like Brady Baldwin potentially swapping, changing lanes, going down low behind Alex McKellar, thinking he's going to get more speed the shorter way around the racetrack.
Yeah, it's
Davies, my apologies.
A lot of the guys there jostling for position in that early stage of the race, and traditionally the low side of the oval, the shortest way around is normally the quickest, but as we mentioned earlier, we haven't been to an oval circuit in the Skippies that has the banking quite like this, so a little bit of unknown. A lot of the drivers no doubt have done a lot of practice during the week and they've got their race strategy all worked out, but what they've learnt from other oval races in the past they can probably forget, and this is a whole new ballgame for a lot of the drivers.
3 wide for the lead. Chastanoff in the middle loses out ground as Baldwin comes around the outside. Tim Corn down low still holds the lead, but for a moment there, we're going 3 wide along the banking. It's now back into 2 lines, 2 grooves. Baldwin up top, Tim Corn down low, but Chastity, having dropped back down low, is finding a lot more speed down there, and they are all really starting to pack up behind. We've got a car around.
Yeah, I think it's Simon Dobner. And I still did see Peter Wilkinson up high in those marbles too, so I think he got a little bit out of shape, and Simon Dobner there we see pulling away from his little spin. A little bit of damage on the back of his car, but I think he's going to live to fight on, albeit a long way behind the rest of the field.
Well, Skip Barbers were never really meant for this, but they are taking to it quite well. And there goes, looks like McKellar trying to carry his momentum 3 wide, but eventually runs out of steam in the middle of the corner here, and he's in the middle of a tight sandwich.
Yeah, Brady Baldwin on the high line and Tim Corn there on the low line battling for the lead at the moment, but filling their mirrors is a gaggle of cars, so looks like Tim Corn might have a drafting partner there behind him, as does Brady Baldwin up on the high line, so a lot of teams working together there at the moment.
Yeah, Baldwin up high, starting to lose out a little bit. McKellar really squeezing Corn at the lead, and suddenly what was, the second line for Baldwin became the third line up high. It's faded a little bit, and now we're back to the 2 lines at the front. Baldwin just let himself get squeezed out a little bit, I think. Line might move up the track a little bit. That's a little close this early in the race as well between McKellar and Corn, and McKellar might have even scared Corn a little bit. McKellar has his nose in front, but I don't think he's going to get all the way around the outside because Corn dives in deep there as well. I think, there is a bit of contact, and McKellar is hard into the wall. That's less than stellar.
Less than stellar from McKellar, missing a right-hand front wheel. I check my lefts and my rights, but a lot of damage there. I think Clayton Davis might have been got caught up in that as well because he's suffering a fair bit of damage on the front of his car. So nowhere to go for a lot of these guys when the proverbial hits the fan.
Yeah, no doubt. It seems like he was trying to squeeze down on the leader a little bit to have the shorter run to be able to carry the speed up high without going super duper high, but you can only get so close. These cars bounce and they move around. It's a concrete surface. Here's Baldwin 3 wide up high making the moves, and some of this contact, it almost felt like inevitable when the racing groove is 3 wide. It comes up a little bit from the apron, but not drastically or dramatically. He's always going to move around a little bit if he takes the speed and a shallow entry down towards the apex. Here's what happened to McKellar on the replay. Oh, it's almost 4 wide there. Well, it briefly was until Baldwin faded a little bit up high, and then Cornt drifts up a little bit. McKellar's holding a tight line. McKellar, the car on the outside, suffers from it. That is big damage early in this race. Still 3 wide at the lead though.
Yeah, I think the two to watch at the moment are those 2 green Milo cars sitting up on the high line. So working together there the previous lap. They've almost side by side now as they make their way through turns 1 and 2. But I would suggest they'll be the movers as the laps count down.
Valberg catching a little bit of the apron on the way in and really sticking down low there. So Baldwin get a bit loose up high, and he's now gone all the way back to 6th, 7th place almost. But this is a great view looking forward at our lead pack. It's 15 cars there at the moment. No hint of them shaking anyone just yet. This could get a little desperate. It is getting a little desperate. Look at that. Doyle was leading, and now he's been Ricardo zonted there to either side of him. They're 4 wide. Baldwin up high. Now he loves that line.
Yeah, plenty of, like I said, 4 wide action here. We're only a third of the way through this sprint race, and already they're fighting for the lead. Quite often we've found in these oval races nobody wanted to lead, but being a sprint race at the moment, I think having prime position at the moment, particularly on that inside line, is probably going to be the most favourable spot to be.
Russell Clark up high on the 3rd line at the moment, almost looking like he's getting pushed by Baldwin. Now, I don't think that works for these cars. Baldwin decides he wants up high 4 wide. Oh, it's a matter of when, not if, I think. Watching this up the front, 3 wide, 4 wide, back to 3 wide again.
Well, I did see in practice before the race started that quite a few of the teams were practicing their drafting. And as you can see there, you've got 3 locked-on cars in the form of Tim Cornt, Chastanoff and Braden Martin there, all sitting 1, 2, 3, 4, actually 4 and 5 as well. So they've definitely got a game plan, and no doubt they're talking to each other and letting each other know what's going on up ahead.
Seems like a lot of cars are scraping that right side pod a bit. Oh, contact on borders with Sean Doyle. And there's a lot of cars with a lot of damage up high. These huge cars collected in the back of the pack there. There is a wheel using the banking so effectively. It's made half a lap all on its own. Doyle's trying to continue. I think it's come off Grady Baldwin, and he is in a world of hurt there. We're down to 9 cars at the front now.
So our leader, Tim Cornt, was involved in that. That's definitely mixed up the field a little bit. So we're down to 4 out the front at the moment, with the rest of the pack fighting very hard to get on the tail of those and use the draft that's available.
It's Chastanoff, John, Martin, Doyle as the top 4 at the moment. The locked on cars down low is Chasty and Martin. Up high, Alex John with a wingless Sean Doyle behind. Here's how it happened.
They do say sometimes safety in numbers, but when you're in a pack like that, maybe it's best to be out by yourself, because you can see just a little bit of a touch there between a couple of those cars, and it was really only the wheels touching when no bodywork had to touch, and you can see the end result was the demise of about 4 or 5 cars.
Three wide is possible, but it can become tough to know where everyone is that you can't see, including, you know, the other car down lowest. You don't know what, you might know what the car next to you is doing, but you don't know what the car then further up the track is doing, and vice versa. Once it's 3 wide, there's a little bit more separation. They're going to come across a bit of traffic here. are the leaders. Sean Carey. It's really boxed out Chastity. He doesn't know which way to go or what to do, and they're going to split too wide around. And Chastanov loses out big time. Alex John is going to be able to come down to the low line if he wants to the lead of the race with Doyle up high. So that's cost Chastanov, and he drops back one column, one row in this.
The other thing that I heard the drivers were talking about was raising the right-hand side of the car. So their car setups this week have been a little bit different compared to what they're used to, obviously being an oval. So some scraping on the underside of the car was unsettling quite a few drivers. So raising up the right-hand side and helping that car turn left was all part of the game plan tonight. So I dare say a lot of the drivers have followed suit and taken that same advice.
Row number 2 here becomes all locked on, and then not as Martin backs out of the 3 wide, and the leaders back out of the 3 wide as Schultz loses a bit of momentum up high there. Massive straight line speed for Doyle, but now off the exits up high, great speed from Schultz, losing out through the corners, taking the longer way, but just seems to come off 2 and 4 with a whole heap more speed. So if he's in the right place at the right time come the finish, that could pay off for him. There are times that it's not quite, and he's probably thinking about coming back down into the second line.
As we watch this little battle pack now of 8 cars leading the way, we've got Sean McKenzie there, I think it is, in 9th place, about 2 seconds back, but 15 cars still on the lead lap, but 8 at the moment up the front, and really any one of those 8 drivers place themselves right on the final couple of laps and they can find themselves with a win under their belt for race number 1.
Dover's got to be relatively unique in having those footbridges over the track for an oval, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not something I think you see a lot of in oval racing. Dover's unique in itself with, like I said, the banking's quite high, the crowd seems quite close to the racing, so haven't done a lot of oval racing myself, but I think that Dover tends to be a bit of a favourite for some of the pickup cup cars, at least anyway.
Well, it looks like this race is going to be a time certain one. 3 minutes or about 6 laps left. And I think a lot of the drivers are still feeling out, okay, if I carry more speed on the way into the corner down low, but then lose out on it on the exit, am I still going to have my nose in front when we get to where the checkered flag is? And the drivers up high are, of course, asking themselves the opposite thing. John Schultz is still persisting in this 3rd lane where he gets a great run from about the middle of the corner off the exit. Look how much speed he's going to carry down the straight again. But if that had been the checkered flag, Doyle in the middle had his nose in front for the win. Again, through the corner on the way in down low, Alex John makes speed. On the exit, John Schultz is quick and then quick down the straight, but it might just seem that Doyle in the middle has the best of both worlds if he can keep it on the track, keep it out of contact with the other drivers. He's got that Goldilocks line,
albeit without a rear wing.
You got to question: is that hindering him at all? Do you know what? I see a top speed for Doyle in the speed trap of 207, 4 kilometers an hour faster than anyone else. These teammates are going to be trying to crash into each other on lap 1 of the next race if that's how it works.
So we're down inside 2 minutes now before we get the checkered flag wave. So if Chastity there, who seems to be stuck on the inside, is going to do anything to keep his winning form this season going, he's going to have to make a move now. But at the moment, absolutely nowhere to go.
Again, we almost go back to 2 lanes, and then John Schultz reevaluates it and goes, "Do you know what? I am making so much speed off the corners up here. I got 2 guys following me. What can we do about this?"
It's got to be frustrating for Doyle because he just gets so close to being that car length in front of John, and then all of a sudden the corner comes up. John's managed to hold the inside line, but if he can just get that little bit more run down the straight and drop down, I think he'd have this in the bag. But at the moment, a minute to go, and I don't want to guess who's going to win this.
Well, you're not going to have to wait long to find out because they're coming through 3 and 4. Then they're going to take the white flag to start the final lap of the race, I think, by my calculations on the timing. Let's see. No white flag in the end. JRT, you're wrong. Let's send another email to Joel because it's going to be 2 more from here, just based on the pace that they've been doing. Fastest lap of the race looks like it belongs to Sean Doyle at a 30.2. Like I said, he's in the Goldilocks line, and when he's picked up a slipstream, he's been mighty quick as well. So still 3 wide. The locked on guys have got their, finger in different pies here, because there's some of them down low with Alex John, there's some of them up high with John Schultz, and there is the white flag. Barney doing his best to let him know 4 more corners on this one, who is going to be in the right place. It really feels like Sean Doyle has had the run where it's counted. Schultz is really going to squeeze from up high. Alex John's really going to try to push them up the track. I think there's a 4th lane emerging here with some of the locked-on guys trying that, but it's surely not going to work. There's nothing up there. They wash out a little high, and John, with the wheels on the apron, down low, trying to hold his speed to the line. Doyle up high, though. They try for another line down low, and it is going to be Doyle who takes it on the middle line here at Dover.
Well, Ozicar Racing in the Skippies has not disappointed us up until this stage, and this race has been absolutely no different. Sean Doyle taking the win by 0.04 of a second over Alex John there.
I like that finish. They almost went sort of 4 wide, 5 wide. Some of the locked-on guys went down low on the apron. Some of them tried to go up high over John Schultz. In the end, they weren't in the right place at the right time, and Doyle managed to hold on in that middle lane. And they were all going to put that in the back of their mind for the next race as well. So it was Sean Doyle winning ahead of Alex John and John Schultz. And then Chastanoff, Martin, Mites, Harris, Wilkinson, McKenzie, and Leon Williams completing the top 10.
Yeah, 5 out of the top 8 there being the locked-on guys, and they're just unable to get the job done with that wall of cars in front of them. But as we scroll through, Ira Philberg, a great result for him, finishing on the lead lap, 9 seconds down in 11th place. Darren Lassou following him across the line. Nathan Verney and Craig Kerman there, 12 seconds off the pace. Then it's a big gap, big gap. Still on the lead lap back to Sean Carey. He had a bit of a lonely race, followed by Jeremy Bush. He was a lap down. And then we start looking into those that got caught up in the incidences. As the race unfolded, we've got Russell Clark 15 laps down, Ash Knowles, Brady Baldwin, Tim Cornt. There's the top 20.
Bring us home. Or not. Dennis Hancock, Clayton Davies, John Snell, Simon Dobner, Alex McKellar, all looking like retirements there. A real tough retirement as well for Alex McKellar, looking to go back-to-back championships in this series. That is going to have made it a whole lot tougher. But lucky for him, he's got 1 more race tonight. We'll take a little break here on Simspeed TV. But when we come back, they've got qualifying and the compulsory pit stop race number 2. We'll leave you with this beautiful replay of the finish of race number 1.
Yeah, so we're using the VRS Direct Force Pro this year. We have a wheel adapter right here, so I'm using the rim I used last year. But the motor right here produces a lot of power, a lot of precision, and it helps me, just feel the car more, feel the car a lot quicker. Especially, this week we're at Sonoma. I can feel it, when it hits the curbs. Any little change in the car, the wheel reacts a lot quicker than your typical gear-driven or belt-driven wheel. For example, if you're on oval and the rear tires break loose, force feedback on it corrects a lot quicker than your typical wheels. There's no resistance pretty much as far as being able to make quick corrections on the wheel. So all that, paired with how precise the wheel itself is, it makes it to where it helps you as a driver, you know, to find that extra hundredth or thousandths of a second. So when you're getting a direct drive wheel, especially the VRS wheel, you know, it's heavy duty. It's got good weight to it. You know, it's not a plastic toy. It feels like you can really beat up on it. You know, a lot of people have issues with their plastic gear-driven wheels just kind of breaking after a couple years. You know, this thing just feels like it can go forever. The forces are really strong, where if you know, you might have to let go of the wheel if you get into the wall. You know, you can adjust all that with the settings on it and stuff, but you know, the wheel itself doesn't play around. It's got way more strength than you could ever need, and that's what makes it good, that you can adjust that down to whatever the car needs. So initially you'll be able to get the controller box and the motor together, and eventually you will be able to add a rim onto that option. They'll also be including a button plate on it to put on the rim to have all sorts of different buttons and functionality. Also, pedals are coming, so that's a pretty big deal as well. Hasn't been covered too much, but you know, the goal is to also have pedals to go along with the Direct Force Pro. So that's pretty exciting. The wheel feels good. You know, it feels very much like a real world steering wheel. You just kind of feel like what you would imagine the car to feel like. You know, a real steering wheel in a car is very smooth, it's very direct, very quick, and that's what this wheel feels like.
Well, we're back at Dover, and now it's time for the longer race in Ozicar Skip Barber Series here on the Oval. 30 minutes with a compulsory pit stop. How strong, how powerful, how important the slipstream has been. What is that going to mean for the pit stops? I think we are going to see a lot of teammates pitting together. And if you're one of the drivers out there, not with a teammate, not with some friends out there, what are you going to do? Just hitch your wagon to someone else's train? That's all to be found out, but it's going to be qualifying first.
Yeah, so last time we were at an oval, we did see James Chastanoff duck into the pits there at the end of lap number 1, and it was a long fight back through the field, and with about 3 laps to go, he took the lead of the race and went on for the win. But change in Skippy rules over the break between the 2 seasons, and lap at 1 pit stops are now no longer an option. So it'll be interesting to see just how early some of these guys dive into the pits, and they might be doing that to simply just get out of traffic, or they might do it as a part of a game plan with, like you said, with teammates to form a bit of a draft train. And the secret there is going to be to come out of the pits in a clean bit of track.
No doubt. So qualifying right now, you get 5 minutes, but only the 1 lap. So it works well when we go to the full-length Grand Prix circuits, but here it's going to be very, very quickly done for drivers like Ash Knowles. To be starting his first flying lap now, and it's all about, it's kind of like qualifying for Indy 500 fixed setup. You just got to try to hold the line with the minimum scrub, with the smoothest inputs, and just keep that throttle pedal mashed. And that's kind of what looks like happening here. Smooth down to the apex, holding it right to the apron there, trying not to touch it. Did get a little lick on it, and then let the car breeze up to carry your speed to the checkered flag. 31.1 is the first time on the board for Ashley Knowles. It's then immediately eclipsed by a tenth of a second by Alex John. We're going to start seeing a couple of other times trickle in here as well. Chastanov with the 31 flat to the top at the moment.
Yeah, some names we're used to seeing up the front there tonight. Looks like Alex John, Russell Clark there have found themselves a bit more speed in race number 2 than what they had in the first race. So they'll find themselves a little bit further up the starting order, hopefully. But like you said, only 1 flying lap here. It's a bit of a shootout, so critical and really, really important you get that maximum run off turn number 4, so you hit that flying lap with 4 beans.
Brady Baldwin out now onto the apron, and then into his lap. How much time has he got left in the session? 2.5 minutes. What's the track temperature doing? It might even be cooling off. No, I don't think so. And it's not going to make a whole lot of a difference between 2 minutes either. No hint of a cloud out there. I'll tell you what, if it was like a 15-minute session with 1 lap, you might be tempted to wait and hope that there's a cloud or something. Do not see that at all happening in a 5-minute session here. McKellar also out. Fair chunk of the apron for the front left wheel there.
Yeah, dropping that left front wheel down onto the apron. See a lot of the drivers doing that, so it doesn't seem to affect their speed, wash off too much at the moment, so might be part of their strategy. But I don't know how it's going to work in their favour, but every little millisecond counts when you're only doing 31-second lap times.
A couple of other drivers. John Schultz still waiting. Alex John has just gone to 6th. John Schultz has gone up to 8th. I think that's almost everyone with the exception Tim Corn, Clayton Davies. What's Brady Baldwin up to? Oh. Does he still get to go again if he goes on the tow hook on the formation lap? Oh. Oh, so we might see Brady Baldwin sort of abort and then try again. Still time left. I think you'd have to be leaving lane about now-ish, given your form-up lap might be 35 and then 31 seconds for your next lap. But don't see it happening.
I think he sat there too long. He's decided
Tim Corns waited too long as well.
Pulling out of the pits now, so Tim Cornt, I think he's going to run out of time. The checkered flag's going to drop before the end of the session, so I dare say he'll start off the back row of the grid with good company in Brady Baldwin.
So we wait and see, but this could have been a strategy blunder from Cornt. The car was kind of waiting at pit exit there, I thought, for a while. Not enough time in this session from what we can tell. Jake can maybe tell us what his first sector time looks like, though.
The interesting, I think, here, David, is going to be the way people attack pit lane. So, like you mentioned earlier in race number 1, it's a matter of getting down off the racing line onto that apron halfway between turns 3 and 4, and you've really got to wash off a lot of speed. So we may see some pit lane accidents and some speeding in pit lane as well. So if a lot of drivers haven't actually taken that into account and practiced that during the week, that could be the difference between making and breaking someone's race, I think.
31 seconds, the pole time for James Chastanoff. 1 second too long for us to put it as an ad on commercial television. Then Alex McKellar, Matthew Mites, Tim Harris, Braden Martin, Alex John. You can see just the finest of margins is what can separate, starting on the third row versus starting on the pole. And then Russell Clark, John Schultz, Sean McKenzie, and Simon Dobner, 0.02 of a second apart. And Jeremy Bush, Craig Kermond. That is our first 6 rows.
Yeah, some familiar names and also some great qualifying efforts there. Jeremy Bush and Simon Dobner up the list a little bit. But as we make our way down the list, Craig Kerman, Ashley Knowles, Ira Felberg there in position 13, and Peter Wilkinson again. Quite often those two drivers find themselves side by side after a qualifying session. Darren Lassou and Dennis Hancock in position 16, 17, Leon Williams and Nathan Verney there side by side, making up that row of the grid as well. So a couple of drivers a little bit further back than they'd like to be. Sean Doyle, Sean Carey there on row number 11. And as we discussed earlier in the qualifying session, Clayton Davies and Tim Corn rounding out row number 12. And looking like sitting there on the last row by himself, we'll find a Brady Baldwin. And there may be some cloud cover coming over by looking at the images we're seeing.
Track temperature currently 43 Celsius. We'll see if that moves at all during this race. Officially, partly cloudy, but partly cloudy normally means 20% clouds, whereas mostly cloudy is what means more, a bit closer to 50-50. Pace car rolls out, and our front row once again is Chastanoff on the front row, down low on the pole. McKellar on the high side, and then Mites and Harris behind. So your pole sitter has 2 teammates on the row immediately behind him. But if it's 2 lanes of racing, the outside might almost be preferable come later in the race.
Yeah, we saw that in race number 1 with the one car width up off the apron, and that was Sean Doyle managed to get the win by the smallest of margins, but a win's a win, whether you win by an inch or a mile, as it was once famously quoted.
Barney raising the green flag.
It's a long wait coming around turn number 4. He's got the flag flying up in the air as we get ready to go.
The pole sitter has put the power down quite early, and you can see what a jump James Chastanoff has got over McKellar and Mites, and I think there would have been some communication there, and his teammates have come along with him down on the low side as well. And then look, all the way up high, McKellar had a tough race 1, but he's in it again for race 2, hoping he'll keep all the wheels on his wagon in 30 minutes time.
We haven't quite seen the gaggle of cars that we saw in heat number 1. They look a little bit more spaced out at the moment, so whether it's been lesson learnt or fewer drivers got caught napping at the start when the flag dropped, but at the moment we've got locked on lads, cars sitting down on that inside line, and it's going to take a very, very determined driver to try and fight their way down there, because at the moment they've got that line covered nice and deep with 3 cars there all lined up in a row.
For a couple of laps, they all start to form up again. And one of the things we might see that keeps the pack a little further spread out than race number 1 is some thoughts of, fuel conservation. You can go later into the race if you burn less fuel. If you just hang that half a car length back, for example, down low 5 cars back, if we got Russell Clark, I think, he could be saving an incredible amount of fuel just staying in line there. But Nathan Verney on the pit lane early, and I think he's got a little bit of damage going on there. Everyone else in the rest of your field you could see in that one shot. The track has cooled off a little itty bit at the moment since they dropped that green flag. Speed up high, from McKellar now being scored in the lead. There might be just some strategy going on, because look at that, locked on lads, 4 cars in a row on the low line, and then all green on the high side.
We spoke about team strategy playing a large part, and we do know that the locked-on the Milo cars and top split fellas all sit in the same Discord together, so they'll be talking and no doubt working their way through the strategy as the race unfolds. So I know the locked-on guys are doing exactly the same thing. So it'd be nice to be a fly on the wall and have someone listening in the other Discord room, but see one Milo car there drop up a little bit high and then fall back into formation.
Yeah, it must be Clark is trying to make a third line happen. It's just not happening yet. No one else really wants to go with him other than his teammate. He keeps trying.
He's got quite a bit of ground to make up before he pulls up level with those leaders, although it looks like he's making a little bit of ground on the entry of the corner, but as soon as they make their way to the middle of the corner, he drops that car length back and he's got to fall back in behind the top split TV skippies.
Some of these guys sort of 3 and 4 cars back might even be working their way around here at just 3/4 throttle, staying with the pack. You look at these, it's Tim Harris, I think, is on the low line 4 wide. Big move up high from Brady Baldwin as well. He's now trying to make work what the Milo cars couldn't. And then behind that, Sean McKenzie, I think, is 5th car in line down low and making no hints of wanting to get out of that line at all. Just really soft pedaling it around at the minute. We are almost just in the holding pattern until that pit window opens.
Yeah, Brady up from 25th position. We spoke about him starting at the back of the grid, and already he's, that high line's definitely working for him. I don't know whether it's something he's practiced during the week, but it's definitely working for him here at the moment. So he's got himself in a brilliant position now. He's surpassed the Milo guys, and he's finding himself challenging the top split TV guys as he moves his way up to 3rd. Wow.
Yeah, he could have slotted back down into the 2nd line there in front of the Milo cars, and he went around the outside of it. Decided against it. Still seeing good pickings from staying up high here. No hint of any lift from Brady Baldwin. Some others might be thinking about their fuel or something. Brady Baldwin's looking to get to the front of this pack. Could have slotted in behind potentially, but now McKellar and John have just closed that gap up. Almost looked like he was trying to slot in behind Alex McKellar here, but he still has Alex John to the inside. So they are properly 3 wide, and there's quite a few behind Baldwin as well who decided to follow him in this 3rd lane. So he has made it happen. The 3rd lane is becoming increasingly popular now as they've warmed up the tyres, burned through a little bit of the fuel, and maybe the lowest line of the racetrack has had a lot more heat put into it as well.
Yeah, you can see the cars dancing around, particularly through that middle of the apex, and a lot of the drivers having to give each other a lot of respect, because we saw what happens in race number 1 when you didn't quite know exactly what was happening around you, a little bit of contact, and there was a lot of carnage involved. So that'll be playing in people's minds, and particularly those that got caught up in that carnage, they'll be looking for redemption here in race number 2.
Ooh, bit loose from Sean Doyle, and I think he's outside rear wheel. Might have touched. There's it, Clark up there on the outside. Things got pretty close, 3 wide, when Doyle just gets a little bit loose there. Might be running a pointy setup. Who knows? They all want to keep the wheels on their wagon until we get to that pit stop phase though. So it's not quite as manic as it was 3 wide in race number 1 just yet. Oh, there's an incident in the back. Craig Kerman has big damage. We've had a little bit of contact deeper in the field, and that car for Craig Kerman is not going anywhere under its own power. Simon Dobbin is also on the lane. John Snellen, I think, is having some problems. So a couple cars have come together a bit further back.
He hasn't taken out a yellow at this stage, so he's obviously got his car off the track and managed to avoid the leaders coming around in time. So that was lucky for Craig there. Otherwise, he could find himself being a sitting duck, and 3 wide with these guys up the front, there would have been nowhere for someone to go.
Now, the other interesting thing with having nearly five locked-on cars all on the low line, as we're going to see in the background here. Oh, up high, comes down low, two come together, and that's how three cars end up with damage and into the wall. Fourth one might have been lucky to dodge it there, one of the locked-on cars. Was it Ira? Might have been Ira. But regardless, those other locked-on cars, all down on the low side here, they are going to have first priority when they want to pit. If you're in the midline or up top in this pack, you're not going to be able to get down to the apron to pit without dropping back off the pack. So I think this is potentially a strategy masterstroke from those guys. They can hold it down low at the moment because there are 4-car blockade preventing anyone else from pitting without losing time.
I did hear the locked-on guys talking about going a V formation if they had the opportunity to go 4 or 5 wide across the track to try and avoid everybody
No,
getting
Formula
by.
V's are Wednesday night.
At the moment, they've yeah, no, it didn't go unnoticed. But at the moment, sitting
Did go
4
unappreciated.
deep.
Yeah, but the point I make and you make, there's quite a few teammates in this pack. They are communicating with each other. They will be able to play just a little bit of strategy games. So you've got Top Split and Milo potentially working together. You've got the locked-on guys working together. Baldwin and Clayton Davies might be working together as well. So a lot of opportunity for the team strategy to really work itself in the pack formation like this. The third line's been squeezing down a little bit on the middle line as well. They've been getting ever closer in the corners. Makes me a little nervous, seeing as we're still 40 laps away and a pit stop from the end of this race. A long way to go still.
Yeah, it looks like that inside line might be starting to pay off there for those guys, the locked-on guys. I think they're starting to get a bit of heat generated in the tyres. They're definitely in a groove. And it'll be interesting once any of those guys peel off. It'll be interesting to see who drops down and holds that low line, because you might hold it now, but if you find yourself out of position come towards the end of the race, you might not be in that favourable spot where you can just sit down on the apron and hope for the best.
That middle line's been pretty quick, but McKellar is in a compromised position through the corners here because that Baldwin up high sometimes really squeezes down on him. Chastanoff down low is doing a very good job of holding his line, but there's still not a lot of wiggle room for McKellar to get loose or push up a little bit wide. It is a real squeeze between the top three. You see behind Baldwin, Davies and Clark are a little bit higher up the track in the third groove than what Baldwin comes through the turns at, sort of in the middle of the track as the third line, definitely squeezing down a little more, and again a moment where a millimetre from disaster.
Yeah, Alex McKellar just getting a little bit out of shape there and moving up the track, and I reckon there was only inches in it. So luckily Netco didn't play a factor there. All the drivers are still facing in the right direction, carrying momentum. So they will live to fight another day. But it's just something they've got to be very cautious of and very wary of. These skippies moving around, particularly with this hot weather, a lot more than what they're probably used to.
Yeah, not particularly jealous of Alex John there as well, because he's sort of in the middle of all of it. In the middle line, a car back. If anything kicks off in front of him, he's got nowhere to go, no chance to react. He can't go left, he can't go right, he can't go backwards. And just right smack dab in the middle of all of it at the moment. Still no one has taken a proper competition pit stop yet. We're all hanging it out long in the pack, and I think that's probably what we're going to see unless we get 2 or 3 or more teammates who decide they want to go early and try to form their own pack and leave everyone else high and dry.
And James Chastanoff getting a clear car length in front of Alex McKellar there coming out of turn number 4, but McKellar getting that drive off the corner that we saw Sean Doyle make the most of in heat number 1, and just managed to pull up the side of him, and then all of a sudden the roles are reversed, and you see McKellar now with probably just a smidgen in front. He could have been cheeky and moved down onto that low line block and chastened off, but has chosen to sit tight in the second row.
By my top speed readings, Doyle's still got a very, very slippery car this race. So I wonder if he's got something that gives the attitude of the car a good top speed when he's in a slipstream. He is, of course, here in the middle of the pack. He likes that middle lane. It worked oh so well for him in race 1, but he's 3 cars back in the middle lane at the moment. We've still got the pit stops to happen. He might be able to work his way forward, but the middle lane at the moment, 3 back, is not where he wants to be.
So we see 20 cars at the moment on the lead lap. They're all separated by less than 4.5 seconds. A couple of cars off the lead lap. A bit further back was Nathan Booney and Dalton Craig Kerman. We saw Dennis Hancock. So considering we're a reasonable way into this race here at the moment, we're nearly at the halfway point, and yet to see anybody pit, but 4.5 seconds separating the front of the pack and the rear. So it really is anyone's game.
Chastity was again a whole car clear of the middle lane last time around. Oh, Tim Harris, is he going to the pit lane? Is this the first pit stop we're going to see? He's down on the apron. Tim Harris is going for the pit stop early. Separate from all his teammates as well. He is doing something different. We keep an eye on what his pit lane transit time and service time looks like to give us an idea. But that's bold and different, and I think it's only going to pay off if there's a big one in this leading pack.
Yeah, I'm surprised I didn't see any of the other locked-on cars peel off as well, but he did make that transition off the bank relatively early there before it even entered turn 3, so obviously taking that dive midway through the corners of turn 3 and 4 unsettles the car a lot, so playing it safe there and maybe giving up a little bit of time, but it might be a smart move in the end.
Yeah, and they've got to slow it down early as well on their way into the pit lane, so they almost probably start braking before they get down onto the apron. Here's some other locked-on cars looking for it. That would be Chastity going for the pit lane. Okay, and then are they just going to go 1 lap each for the next lap? We're going to have one at a time. It's changed things up big time at the front as well, though, because it's McKellar down low, John in the middle, Baldwin up high, and look at a lot of other drivers going for pit lane now, exactly at the halfway point of the race. Where are they going to rejoin compared to Tim Harris? Cold tyres, probably not a huge difference here on the oval, but they do have to make that compulsory tyre change. Mike's going for the lane. All of the locked-on guys are coming in. Oh, and there is a big one out on track.
Yeah, contact there on the exit of turn 4, and there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars caught up in that, so plenty of smoke, plenty of damage. See a heap of cars diving for the pits to avoid the contact in front, as we see wheels rolling down the main straight.
McKellar, Baldwin and Clark are still left. Everyone else from that lead pack either pitted or was involved in that accident. Now it's only going to be Clark, as here comes McKellar and Baldwin onto the pit lane. Spicy at the halfway point of this race. A lot of drivers pitting and quite a lot involuntarily with a bunch of damage on. We'll take a look at that again. So you've got McKellar down low. That's Sean Doyle in it there. John gets up into the side, comes down of Baldwin, comes down into Sean Doyle. Clayton Davies, nowhere to go. Sean McKenzie, that looks like, spears into the side, and that is rough for Ash Knowles, Sean McKenzie. Ira comes in there as well. A lot of cars together. It all starts with the driver in the middle getting a little loose, having no room up high to slide up into, bouncing back down into a bunch of drivers who, when you're 3 wide, just cannot go anywhere. So you can't take avoiding action without hitting someone else. So back on the live, Russell Clark, only driver yet to pit. Braden Martin come out of the pit lane, net leader there with John Schultz and Matthew Mites right in behind him. McKellar, Tim Harris and James Chasnove, I think, will form up in the pack again as well. As Russell Clark now pits, everyone has made their stop. And there is the cars who are probably going to become the leaders. Martin down low with Mites behind him and John Schultz up high. 3 of them together, 2.5 clear of the next pack, which is McKellar, Chasnove and Harris. I think you can imagine that next pack potentially working together to catch the top 3. Look at them in the background there. I think they can do it. We might have a top 6 once this all forms together.
Very interesting to see how they all form out, and we'll have to keep a very close eye on where Clark is as they come around turns 3 and 4 here now to see how he fans out of the pit lane and whether he's got tyres up to temperature or anything latch onto the back of these guys.
There he is, Russell Clark still trying to get up to speed. The rest of these drivers are going to swallow him up. In fact, Clark is going to stay a little high. John Schultz is going to come through down low. The Milo guys are going to be reunited at the front. It is 7 cars for the lead of the race, and then behind Timothy Harris in 7th, it's 6 seconds or so to get to Brady Baldwin. Can you tap the wall there?
I think you might have, yeah, but definitely using the traditional racing line there, they're not definitely holding the inside line like we see all the early laps unfold. So a little bit of change of strategy to try and spit it out.
We got McKellar, Martin, Schultz, Mites, Clark, Chasnove, Harris is our top 7, and they're in 2 lines at the moment. And then Harris drop down from up high into the low line, bringing the band back together with all of the locked on lads. We're in line behind McKellar with just the Milo guys up high.
Yeah, I thought Clark might have dropped in behind Schultz there as he came out of the pits quite early to take that inside line, or even if they went side by side and made anyone go around the absolute outside, make it 3 wide if they wanted to make it hard. But that wasn't the strategy they decided to play, so we'll see how things unfold. But at the moment, the 2 Milo cars there using the draft. I don't think fuel's going to be an issue now. Everybody is pitted and that should be enough to see them home.
Yeah, normally for our races, you know, if they need to take a little bit of fuel, when they need to take a little bit of fuel at pit stop, it's kind of covered by the amount of time it takes to change the front tyres. But 30 minutes on an oval burns more fuel than 30 minutes on a road course. So I'm seeing just a little variation across a bunch of the pit stop times. Some of that is some randomness to how long the tyres take to change. But, you know, consider with the same amount of starting fuel, they would need to take more on an oval, even with all the slipstreaming, etc., etc.
Yeah, the open throttle percentage on an oval here is, I don't even know what it is, but 100% more than what you'd find on a traditional road circuit, which these guys are used to. So obviously the open throttle means a lot more fuel going through that carburetor or fuel injection system, whatever they're running on the skippies here. So
there's Mr. Dover himself, the Monster Mile, and looks like a Dodge Intrepid or something. Dodge Charger.
of course Dover here stuck in the middle of Delaware in the USA, so very, very renowned for their oval racing. So big crowds here today to watch these skippies circulate around, and so far they're enjoying a good view, as I'm sure everyone out there in Simspeed TV land is as well. So putting on the show, the Ozicar Skippies here tonight.
I've been through Delaware on a bus. That's I think that's the closest I ever got to Dover. So still the 2 Milo cars up high. That could be, you know, seeing how strong the middle lane was last race, that could be the place to be at the end of this race. Potentially, you see Tim Harris in the background there, thinking about the high line again. Scrubs a bit of speed on the way in, and he decides then to drop back down low again. And then goes back up high again, so that's his prerogative at the back of the pack there. He can pick and choose. Meanwhile, some of the other guys are a little more stuck in their lane unless they also drop to the back. Every time they come around to the start-finish line, is McKellar still leading them? So you wonder at what point Schultz and Clark can push up just a little tighter to try to emulate what Doyle did in race 1. Look a little closer this time again. So still 7 and change minutes to go. And really going to hold that one 3 wide there? Clark really thinking about it? My goodness, that's a bit risky, is it not?
Yeah, taking the very, very high line, and they've got to be careful there not to rub wheels with each other, but I think falling back in line there, we see Clark falling back in behind Schultz. So, playing the team game, they make it 3 wide, 3 turns 3 and 4. Clark they're taking a turn to lead, and I think Schultz might be taking the opportunity to save a bit of fuel this time around. Bit of the swapsy doozy there between the 2 Milo cars.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure what they're doing. It's not quite challenging McKellar's lead at this point. Then again, neither is Braden Martin or Matthew Mites, who I think are in a position where I think Martin could attack McKellar if he wanted to, but he wants to save it to the last 5 laps or so. Martin also had the shortest pit stop I can see, so it's possible he skipped a little bit on fuel. There's someone rejoining the race. They've all briefly 4 wide to come around.
Just keep an eye on the cars in the background as well. We've had Brady Baldwin and Tim Corn working together. They were a couple of seconds back off the pace there.
He's on his lid though, Tim Corn. That's him rolling along and stuck on his lid. Huge amount of damage on that car. Sean Carey was the driver who just rejoined the race. Saw this pack get around him.
So Brady Baldwin might have been one of those ones that lost out in the pit stops. I haven't got the stop times in front of me, but he fell back away from the lead group there during that pit stop phase, and he's fought his way back up, and as he did in the early part of this race, preferring that high line 3 cars wide. So this time, nowhere to go. He's got a Milo car in front of him, but certainly got some good pace at the moment.
Milo
2
cars
Milo cars there come together. Yeah. It's opened up the door for Brady Baldwin to split him in half.
Yeah, and then he's gone all the way clear around the outside, and those 2 Milo cars not looking so hot and holding their line through the corner there. Keller is almost middle of the road trying to hold on the lead. Baldwin steams around the outside. He's got no concerns about fuel whatsoever. Because Brady Baldwin, longest stop of anyone at 21 seconds. So I think he's just flat out here. He's worked his way to the front of the pack, and it kind of shows what some of them, like Martin and others, could have done if they wanted to. I think McKellar must be saving pretty big here, because around the outside comes Russell Clark. Baldwin, no trouble challenging either. Now McKellar down low is going to look for it again. Baldwin moves up high, bounces off the wall, as we see from the onboard with John Schultz. They are really getting aggressive here.
The other thing we haven't spoken about, and it may come into a factor as we're inside the last 5 minutes, nearly 4 minutes to go now, so only 7 or 8 laps remaining. But lap traffic, so whether these guys have enough speed to catch anyone in front of them, and that just might make a curveball into someone's strategy.
Mites is down on the lane for the second time, so he's left this leading pack of now 7, where McKellar and Baldwin are side by side. Oh, and that's an aggressive move down low. That car is moving about big time for Russell Clark.
Yeah, I think Brady Baldwin had the opportunity again there to take that inside line, but he was definitely clear. but opted to stay that second car up. So he's once again clear of Alex McKellar there going into turns 1 and 2. So definitely he's got a game plan, and that involves just not hugging that inside apron.
With slightly less cars in the lead pack, they've got the ability to move around just a little more. We're seeing that Clark going low, going high, looking one way and the other. McKellar and Baldwin still kind of holding on to front 2 rows. Clark has his nose in front, up high around the outside right now. He's got his nose in front. Through the corner, he'll lose out a little bit. He'll probably pick up a bit better drive off the exit. Lose out quite a fair chunk through the corner. He needs to get back into the slipstream of Baldwin and then move back up high again. He can't be a full-time third laner. He's dropping in and out between that and the middle lane, which he can only do because of the cooperation of his teammate. Oh, so close again between McKellar and Baldwin. Baldwin's on the outside. He likes to squeeze the driver who's on the inside. That's going to be the faster way to do it. That's how you could win this race with the Sean Doyle strat, but it's just a risk that didn't work for him in race 1.
Yeah, with time counting down, now's the time to position yourself in that race-winning position that your strategy you've worked out. So Brady Baldwin doing the last to first challenge at the moment. So starting off the back of the grid, he's leading this race as they cross the flag with minimal laps to go.
Baldwin had his nose in front at the flag. Maybe 3 or 4 to go. Washes out a little bit up high for the Milo car. I think Martin and Chastanoff are still in a very, very interesting position here behind McKellar. No hint of an attack from them yet. They have just been riding along. Are they thinking bag some points? Or are they thinking that they have some way to attack towards the end here? You thought Martin could have gone down low to the inside there if he really fancied it. But there is still, I think they've just started 3 to go. Cameron Baldwin super close again. It's Russell Clark in the Milo machine up high, making the third lane happen. Schultz bouncing back and forth between second and third, almost bouncing up into his teammate as Clark loses out on the high line once again. Almost a dead heat at the line. 2 to go. And now it's 3 wide up high. Inevitable contact. Baldwin into one of the Milo cars. Everyone else makes avoiding action. Brady Baldwin has been spun around and lost out big. Now at the lead, it's almost just the 4 of them as they're going to come to the white flag. McKellar leading Martin and Chastanoff. Russell Clark still trying to make his high line work, but it's come down to just the 4 contenders. White flag is in the air to start the final lap. McKellar is in the lead, but the locked on guys getting oh so much more aggressive with them. Here's Chastity up high around the outside. That's been the place to be in the final laps last time. It's going to be a 2x2 box formation. Oh no, Martin gets sent into the wall as he comes up across the nose of Russell Clark. So it's just Chastanoff and McKellar through turn 3 and 4 for the win. McKellar, lots of speed on the way in, down low. Chastity can't hang it up high. Considers dropping back into the slipstream, but the checkered flag might come up too early. He's got a head of steam, but from the low line, who's got the win? Chastity's done it by 0.02 of a second, almost a dead heat there. He's carried the speed with the slipstream onto the pit straight, kept the throttle mashed, and I think James Chastanoff has taken the win by 0.02 of a second, stealing it away between turn 4 and the checkered flag from Alex McKellar.
It's official as we see up on our screen now. Chastanoff there first and McKellar taking second. Like I said, 0.02 of a second. So action-packed final couple of laps there. We lost a couple of contenders, and James Chastanoff proving to be the strategist and no doubt having a lot of luck on his side to be in the right position at the right time. He'll be extremely happy with that. I know he last time we were at International USA, he took the win, and he's backed that up with another win on the oval here tonight at Dover. So Chastanoff P1 from Alex McKellar there, 0.02 of a second behind him. P2, Russell Clark on the podium as well, 1.5 seconds off the pace after a little bit of contact there with Brady Martin there on the final lap. Tim Harris, John Schultz, Jeremy Bush. They're your top 6, followed by Peter Wilkinson, and a great result for Peter. Darren Lasue, Leon Williams, and Brady Baldwin round out your top 10.
Wow, what a finish there. Some fell by the wayside, and not everyone could cleanly make it to the end in that kind of pack racing. Got Martin, Mites, Verney laps down, and then from behind there, you've basically got to say Tim Corn, a retirement. Same too, Sean McKenzie, Clayton Davis, Ira Felberg, Alex John, Ash Knowles, Sean Carey, Sean Doyle, John Snell, Simon Dobner, Craig Kermond, and Dennis Hancock. So a lot of bruised and damaged skippies after that race at Dover. Slipstreaming, giving no one any room to breathe. But James Chastanoff played that to perfection, saved his powder for right when it mattered, and he got one hell of a run off turn 4 using the slipstream perfectly. Another photo finish in Ozicar Skip Barber Series. Got to wind back on that one, because what a final lap from James Chastanoff. You got to believe the transponder, because you can't tell with your eyes. 0.02 of a second at 200 kilometers an hour is not very far at all. And up high, James Chastanoff managed to steal the win away from Alex McKellar. Russell Clark completed the podium.
Yeah, I'd say both those boys coming in at turns 3 and 4 had their foot absolutely to the floor. Just I know that find some extra strength in your right leg there when the accelerator's going flat out when you're in that situation. So all the action happening behind them. I'm sure they weren't watching their mirrors. They were side by side there, turns 3 and 4. McKellar, they're getting the nod, but not able to carry that mid-corner speed, and Chastanoff making the most of it there on the final exit of turn 4 when it counted.
I thought he was done. You know, he dropped back up high where Doyle won by being faster around the outside, holding it out there, squeezing down the driver on the inside. But Chastanoff dropped back into the slipstream, pulled out the exit of turn 4, and somehow just had enough speed and enough momentum to sneak on by 0.02 of a second. You got to get lucky in a situation like that, because, you know, a breath of wind could have meant it was 0.02 of a second in the other direction, and Alex McKellar was the winner. So let's grab feature race winner James Chastanoff. He's standing by. How's the adrenaline? How's the heart rate? Because that was a close finish.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I honestly I can't actually believe what actually just happened, to be honest. Yeah, just crazy.
Wind us back to your view of race number 1 as well. That really set us up for how the racing was going to go at Dover. 3 lanes, incredible slipstreaming, and it was all about which line do you want to be in, and it seems like you and your teammates liked that low line.
Yeah, well, we're actually saying during the race we might change one of the team names to Locked Onto the Inside Line, because most of the time once we're down there, there's no real movement to move up, so once you're down there you're kind of stuck. But yeah, we were happy to just sort of help each other and push draft and slipstream ahead of us as well, so I think that's just sort of where we were sort of going with that.
Chasty, sorry, we did talk about during race number 2 there, you were 4 or 5 cars deep with the locked on team and potentially locking out any other cars that wanted to drop down into pit lane early. So was that part of the team strategy, or is this just something that you found yourselves in that position without really sort of thinking too much about it?
We did actually mention it for a little bit, but that was purely circumstantial. We were worried that we were wondering, whether we could actually like box people out of actually being able to get into the pit lane. But yeah, it wasn't really a strategy. We just sort of ended up there, and I guess it's just the way we sort of qualified and how things sort of panned out from the start. I mean, from my perspective, I knew that I had to probably pit first, and I'm sure McKellar was probably pretty close on that as well, just with the fuel numbers going down from leading the pack that whole way. So I knew I was going to have to pit first, so I figured those guys can probably do a couple of laps extra as well, and then see how the rest of it sort of goes, and yeah, they'd have to sort that out themselves.
very bumpy on the concrete banking here. We could hear it all race long. Some of these cars almost bottoming out. The Skippy obviously is not an oval car, but we keep bringing it to some ovals and getting some interesting racing. Well, how do you make of that?
Yeah, it's kind of odd. I mean, I really enjoyed the USA Speedway, and I think that worked really well because of the braking. So there was a little bit of technique involved in being able to sort things out. But this track was just everyone had a go. Basically, everyone had a go at this. It didn't really seem too dependent on what your technique was or how fast you are driving these cars at all. It was sort of like anyone had a chance. And from, I guess, my perspective as well, thinking about championship as well, it was probably worst case scenario for me. Everyone all having a go, and people who normally aren't up at the front throwing themselves at it. And, you know, all power to them. I mean, it's a race. We're trying to race here. But, yeah, for me, it did mean that I was going to be a little bit more cautious and apprehensive about it. And, yeah, just amazed because in that last pack, sitting in 6th place, I was happy just sitting there. And I knew that the inside line was probably the best place to be if there was going to be an accident. So, to be honest, I was just trying to keep it as safe as possible and make sure I picked up as many points as I could.
Congrats, Chastity. You gave us another photo finish in Ozicar Skip Barber Series. Maybe go back, screenshot that one, print it out, and put it on the wall. Who knows? But who are you going to thank?
Just want to thank the Locked On guys, all the work that they've done this week. It's been insane. Our sponsors, Brewster Coffee, CD Cinematography, and 24/7 Race Control as well. I want to shout out to my mates in the Banter Alliance as well. Have been supporting me every week, and they've been hammering me for not mentioning them. But yeah, thanks guys for all the banter and criticisms you guys give me. Yeah, thanks to my parents who are watching all the time. A couple of my work colleagues have logged into my stream to have a look as well. Yeah, and just thanks to you guys as well for covering everything, doing such a great job with it. Yeah, thanks for that.
Delightful. Congrats, well done. See you next week.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks. Catch you later.
Well, so Jason, give me some closing thoughts from Dover.
Yeah, absolutely. That was something we probably couldn't have penciled in, or Hollywood couldn't have wrote a script any better. So amazing racing here on the ovals again. It's failed every single time we come to an oval in the Skippies. It's failed to disappoint us. So it'll be interesting to see if and where we Ira decides to throw one in next season with the Ozicar Skip Barber Series. But we leave the ovals now and we head back to a road circuit next week.
Indeed, on the Imola Grand Prix course next week, and it should be a 50-minute race, and often those have 2 pit stops in it. So the strategy and the gamesmanship and the teamwork element might be on play once again at Imola next week. Dover was nothing short of exciting, if not also chaotic. There is a couple happy drivers. We spoke to James Chastanoff, but there might be an equal and greater number of drivers a little disappointed after Dover because there were quite a few big incidents. And again, when they race that close and there's an incident, a lot of drivers just have nowhere to go and end up getting tangled up in other drivers' mistakes or incidents. So hopefully none of that at Imola next week. Thanks for joining us on Simspeed TV for Ozicar. There is that Dodge Charger that the Monster Man holds. Of course, all the partners for Ozicar Formula Skip Barber Series, Simfinity, Locked On iRacing Podcast, Prestige Trophy Badge and Engraving, and 24/7 Race Control. I've been David Haynes. Jason Fewens with me. We look forward to seeing you next week for Ozicar on Simspeed.
Fantastic. This is GT racing right now. He's got traction. He's got everything outside of both of them. Maloney. Oh,
he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh, my God. Oh, big crash. Oh, my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go. Oh, no.
That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh, my God.
God, what?